Alrighty, let's get started. Like I said, take lots of breaks. You can rewind, fast forward, whatever you need. We're going to get started by getting the lab sheet and downloading the data set. So you want to save both of these in a place where you know where they're at, because we have to open JASP before opening the data set. You can't just like click it and open it. So let's go over to the lab sheet itself. On the lab sheet, we have our purpose, we have the prep that you want to get your Excel sheet, you want to download the data set, and a review of our research methods instructor. He included these items to assess personality, cognitive ability, and perceptions of research methods. So these are the variables we're working with. They're all continuous variables. So we're going to evaluate the relationships between these continuous variables using Pearson's correlation coefficient. To do this, we have 4 big tasks. We're going to create scatter plots to visually inspect these relationships, the bivariate relationships. We're going to request correlation tests and locate the information and results to be able to write up the results. And we're going to create a correlation matrix that you then turn into a table, and that summarizes the relationships between all the study variables. Be sure to save your JASP results file. That's the one where you do export results, and it is a HTML file because you'll need to turn that in at the end. Okay, so first let's open up the JASP file. We'll need to open JASP first. And then navigate to wherever you have the file at. Once you open the file, we're to our data panel. So we have the case ID, group ID, college year, ethnicity, gender, age, and the perceptions of research methods scores, right? For all of those 11 items that he asked them, both at the beginning of the term and the end of the term. Here, perceptions of research methods, time to mean, that's the one we're interested at the end of the term. So let's look at our list again. First thing we want to do is a visual inspection of the correlations using scatter plots. And remember, this is only the bivariate, so we got to do one for each of those 6 bivariate relationships that we're looking at. But let's look at the first one. We'll look at the relationship between perceptions of research methods at time 2 and openness to experience. We're going to start by selecting descriptives from the menu to get us a new panel area. There we go. Descriptives. This starts our input panel, and we want openness and perceptions of research methods at time 2. So it went ahead and loaded those over in the results area. Now we're going to go to the plots fold down area. So I'm going to scroll down to where it says plots and fold that down so I can look and see what we have here. There we go. The one we want is scatter plots. There we go. And we're going to turn off the graph above and the graph below so that it's only giving us the scatter plot, we're also going to turn off the regression line. So just the scatter plot. And now let's take a look at what the results are showing us. Now we got this nice scatter plot. It's got openness on the x-axis. It's got the outcome of perceptions of research methods at time 2 on the y-axis. And we can save this by doing save image as, or we could copy and paste it into a Word document as well. Now let's take a look and see if there is an upward or downward trend as we're checking out this scatter plot. So notice that those with low openness, like it's not got low, you have more of high openness, or high openness has sometimes low perceptions, and low openness sometimes has high perceptions. So if there's any trend going on, it looks like it might be negative. But see how spaced out the dots are? There's not a strong relationship there. They're kind of all over the place. If there's any relationship, it looks like it might be trending a little negative. And that's all we can do with a scatter plot, is get a visual idea. Now you'll need a scatter plot for each one, like so this is openness and perceptions, but what you can do here is duplicate this analysis, right? So you don't have to keep unchecking stuff. You can duplicate and then change out openness for the next one, conscientiousness. But notice that if I put conscientiousness second, it's going to, let it finish creating it. Waiting for it to create the scatter plot. There it goes. So now it put conscientiousness on the y-axis and my outcome on the x. And that's not, I'd rather have the outcome on the y-axis. And I can fix that. All I have to do is move the order here. Draw that down so that my x-axis is the first one and my y-axis is the second one. And it'll work on fixing that. Now I have conscientiousness on the x-axis and perceptions of research methods on the y-axis. So you'll need a scatter plot for each bivariate combination. So that's 6 of them. You can save your scatter plots as images so that you can later use them in your write-up, because you're turning in your output, your results in HTML, but you're also using these as figures in your write-up. Examples of figures are in your APA book, and here's an example of one right here, the one we just did with openness and perceptions. So that's task 1. You want 6 scatter plots. Let's check out task 2. We're going to request the correlation coefficient for each bivariate pair. So again, we have 6 of them, but we can go ahead and get this information for all of them in one hit. We're going to go to regression, classical, and correlation to have a new area to the input panel. Let's see, regression, classical, correlation. So now I have a new one, and I want to put in here all of these, so openness through cognitive ability, And what I did there, I selected the first one, I held down the Shift key and selected the last one, and now it's selected all the ones in between. I'm going to put that in variables, but I'm going to scroll to the very bottom to get time 2 mean. So I don't want time 1 mean, I want the time 2 mean. So now I have all of them there. And what I want in this section, in the options, I want it to tell me the Pearson's R and to tell me the significance, the p-value. So we have that. Let's take a look. So remember what we just did was openness with perceptions of research methods, and we said it's probably a weak relationship, but it looks maybe it's a little negative. Well, look at that. It's a negative 0.109, and the p-value is 0.350, which means it's not significant. For a test to be significant, the p-value has to be less than 0.05. So this shows me that this relationship between openness and perceptions of research methods is weak, negative, and not significant. And that's the information we need to write up that little paragraph telling about the test between openness and perceptions. Going across the bottom here gives you all 6 of the relationships with perceptions of research methods that you would need to write up. So perceptions with openness, perceptions with conscientiousness, perceptions with extroversion, and so on. We have the magnitude and direction for each of those 6 pairs, and we know where to look in the results to tell if it's significant and to get the information for the Pearson correlation coefficient. How do we get the effect size? We take the correlation coefficient and we square it. So we take 0.109 times 0.109, and that would be the effect size for the relationship between openness and perceptions of research methods, which is our task 3, is writing up each of those 6. So we now have the information in the results for each of these, and each of these get their own separate little paragraph. Again, you want to keep this information around. Whenever you're writing up a test, you tell your reader what test was conducted, what variables were involved, the results of the test, and an interpretive statement. You have some tips in APA about details that are easily forgotten when you're writing up results, like what should be italicized, how many decimals to use, stuff like that. And here's an example of the relationship between openness to experience and perceptions of research methods with all of the information that we just gathered. You have to write all the others. Okay, one more task. This is where we create a correlation matrix table, and that's going to have all of the study variables. So we're going to get a new section in the results in JASP by going to regression, classic, correlation again. So I'll go over there. I'll go to regression, classical correlation, and now I have this one. And just as a reminder, I know we talked about it in the intro data work and intro to JASP, you can edit this title, correlation matrix. And that way, when you look at your results, they're nice, they're in order, they make sense. You can find what you're looking for easier. Like if this is my descriptives for openness, this is my scatter plot, right? Between openness and perceptions. I can tell myself that. Scatterplot, open, and PRM2. So it replaces the information here, but it also puts it over in the results so that they're easier for you to follow and read when you're getting the information out of them later. Just a tip. Okay, correlation matrix. For here, again, we're going to want all of the study variables. So we want openness through coggability, and then I'm going all the way to the bottom to get perceptions of research methods at time 2. And notice these are now in the same order as the starter table I gave you. That makes it really handy when you're trying to transfer numbers, is to have you, whatever order you want your table in, also make sure that's the order you're doing in JASP. So we're going to make some changes here. We're going to turn off report significance and turn on flag significant correlations. And what that does is make us a more compact table that's easier to work with than having all of the p-values in it. Like, we needed the p-values for reporting in the write-up, but on the table, we just indicate the level of p-value using one of the stars. Like a single asterisk means that the p-value was less than 0.05. Double asterisk means the p-value was less than 0.01, and triple asterisk means the p-value was less than 0.001. So tables are more condensed in that regard. But now we have them all in the same order. So I can export this. I can edit, copy, duplicate, remove. I'm going to try copy. I can also maybe copy this, just the table down here. And if I go to a Word document, I'm going to just go to the end of this just to see what it does. And I'm going to paste, which is Command or Control V. Now it gave me a table here. I would still have to edit it. I would still have to work on the format to make sure it fits with APA style. But so you still have to play with these things. You'd have to put like their full names and stuff like that. But that's one way to do it. Another way is for you to get the values and actually put them into your table here. Alrighty, we go back up. So the last things we still need here, like we have all of, you see how it's a triangle? That's a correlation table, tends to just be the lower half, the lower triangle there. But what we still need for it to be a correlation table is the mean and standard deviation. So we need to get those values. To request mean and standard deviation in JASP, we're going to get another subpanel in the input area for descriptives. So going to descriptives, and now I want the mean and standard deviation for all of my study variables. So I want openness through coggability, and I'm going to want perceptions of research methods at time 2. Now I don't need all of this information, so I'll probably come down to statistics, fold that down, and I can do, I don't need minimum and maximum. Let's take a look at this table and see what we got. So we see there were 80 participants at the beginning of the term when the research methods instructor asked them about personality traits. But then by the end of the term, 5 were no longer there. likely they dropped this class or whatever. So we only really have 75 because you can't compare if there's 5 missing. But JASP already took care of that. But here's our means and our standard deviations. And those are the values that are going to go into these 2 columns here for each of those variables. And then you have your table. Again, you'll want to double check with APA. They've got some good example tables in section 7 so that you can see how they look. And that's the last task we needed to do for this assignment. So what you're going to upload for the assignment are the results file and your MS Word document. And if you want APA information, that's what we're looking at for our APA skills, building up our APA skills for this assignment. You have your page number, your basic formatting as far as double-spaced, 0.5 first line indent on each of your paragraphs. You're going to put a level 1 heading that says results, and then a level 2 heading that says correlations before you start doing your little paragraphs. Before you do your table, like your correlation table and your figures, you'll have a level 1 heading that says appendix. You can check on where to use italics and check the examples in section 7 of your APA book for examples of what your table and figures should look like. Let's take a look at the assignment again. So that's what we have for this assignment. That's our tasks, your materials, what you need to upload, and some APA expectations. You can see the rubric below, and definitely post any questions you have in the course questions or send a Canvas inbox message and we'll get to them right away. Thanks so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing your submissions.